Michael Jackson has once again captured the world's attention. With renewed interest in his life and career, millions of people are revisiting his music, watching his performances, and introducing a whole new generation to the man behind the legend. Fans who already knew every lyric are rediscovering why they admired him in the first place. Others are experiencing his story for the very first time, and as they look beyond the famous songs and unforgettable dance moves, they begin to realize something surprising. Michael Jackson's greatest talent may not have been performing alone. It was the way he thought. Most people already know the moments that made history. The moonwalk during Motown 25, the incredible success of Thriller, the record-breaking Grammy Awards, the sold-out world tours. Those achievements are impossible to ignore, but behind every iconic performance was a mind constantly searching for the next idea, the next innovation, the next challenge. Michael rarely accepted ordinary solutions, whether he was creating music, designing a stage show, or developing a completely new concept. He approached everything with remarkable curiosity. People who worked alongside him often described someone who noticed details others completely overlooked. He wasn't satisfied with simply entertaining an audience. He wanted to surprise them, to inspire them, and sometimes to completely change the way they experienced entertainment. That mindset reached far beyond recording studios. It influenced technology, film, fashion, business, even industries that had little connection to music. Many of Michael's most fascinating achievements happened away from the spotlight. Some involved projects that fans barely noticed. Others quietly transformed entire industries. And several remain unknown to millions of people even today. These aren't stories about chart positions or album sales. They're stories about imagination, about vision, and about a creative mind that constantly looked years ahead of everyone else. The deeper you explore Michael Jackson's life, the more obvious it becomes. He wasn't simply reacting to the world around him. Very often, he was helping shape the future before anyone else recognized where it was heading, from groundbreaking creative decisions to unexpected collaborations to remarkable business moves that changed the music industry forever. His life was filled with moments that revealed just how extraordinary his thinking really was. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore 7 fascinating facts that highlight a different side of Michael Jackson, not just the global superstar the world already knows, but the visionary, the innovator, and the creative genius whose influence reached far beyond the stage. Because once you understand these stories, you'll begin to see Michael Jackson in a completely different light. When people think about Michael Jackson, they usually picture sold-out concerts, groundbreaking albums, or unforgettable music videos. Video games rarely enter the conversation. Yet behind the scenes, Michael had a genuine passion for gaming. He didn't see video games as simple entertainment. He believed they were another creative way to tell stories and connect with people. That interest led him to become involved with projects that few fans knew about at the time. One of the most fascinating examples appeared during the development of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. For years, rumors circulated that Michael Jackson had contributed music to the game. Fans noticed similarities in the melodies. Former members of the development team later suggested that Michael had indeed worked on the soundtrack during production. However, because of changes surrounding the project, his name never appeared in the game's official credits. The story remained one of gaming's biggest mysteries for decades. Even today, it continues to spark discussion among players and music historians, whether people are replaying the game or listening closely to its soundtrack. Many still search for traces of Michael's unmistakable musical style, but that wasn't his only connection to the gaming world. Michael also appeared in Space Channel 5, a rhythm game released by Sega. Rather than simply licensing his music, he became part of the experience itself, voicing the character known as Space Michael. He joined players on a mission to rescue civilians through music and dance. It was an unexpected role, yet it perfectly matched his personality, creative, playful, and unlike anything audiences had seen before. Long before celebrities regularly appeared in video games, Michael had already recognized the potential of the industry. He understood that younger audiences were discovering entertainment in entirely new ways. Music, animation, interactive storytelling. He believed they could all exist together. That way of thinking was years ahead of its time. Today, major artists routinely collaborate with video game companies. Virtual concerts attract millions of viewers. Exclusive music premieres happen inside digital worlds. Interactive entertainment has become one of the fastest growing industries on the planet. Michael explored those possibilities decades earlier. He wasn't following trends, he was anticipating them. Looking back, his involvement with gaming may seem like a small chapter in an extraordinary career, but it reveals something much larger. Michael Jackson constantly searched for new ways to express creativity. He never allowed himself to be limited by a single stage, a single audience, or a single form of entertainment. His imagination reached wherever new ideas could be found. And that willingness to explore unfamiliar territory became one of the defining characteristics of his career. Because to Michael, the future wasn't something to wait for, it was something to help create. End of part 2. Part 2. The video game secret that proved. Michael Jackson was years ahead of his time, documentary voiceover format, approximately 2:15. Narrator. When people think about Michael Jackson, they usually picture sold-out concerts, groundbreaking albums, or unforgettable music videos. Video games rarely enter the conversation, yet behind the scenes, Michael had a genuine passion for gaming. He didn't see video games as simple entertainment. He believed they were another creative way to tell stories and connect with people. That interest led him to become involved with projects that few fans knew about at the time. One of the most fascinating examples appeared during the development of Sonic the Hedgehog 3. For years, rumors circulated that Michael Jackson had contributed music to the game. Fans noticed similarities in the melodies. Former members of the development team later suggested that Michael had indeed worked on the soundtrack during production. However, because of changes surrounding the project, his name never appeared in the game's official credits. The story remained one of gaming's biggest mysteries for decades. Even today, it continues to spark discussion among players and music historians. Whether people are replaying the game or listening closely to its soundtrack, many still search for traces of Michael's unmistakable musical style. But that wasn't his only connection to the gaming world. Michael also appeared in Space Channel 5, a rhythm game released by Sega. Rather than simply licensing his music, he became part of the experience itself. Voicing the character known as Space Michael, he joined players on a mission to rescue civilians through music and dance. It was an unexpected role, yet it perfectly matched his personality, creative, playful, and unlike anything audiences had seen before. Long before celebrities regularly appeared in video games, Michael had already recognized the potential of the industry. He understood that younger audiences were discovering entertainment in entirely new ways: music, animation, interactive storytelling. He believed they could all exist together. That way of thinking was years ahead of its time. Today, major artists routinely collaborate with video game companies. Virtual concerts attract millions of viewers. Exclusive music premieres happen inside digital worlds. Interactive entertainment has become one of the fastest growing industries on the planet. Michael explored those possibilities decades earlier. He wasn't following trends, he was anticipating them. Looking back, his involvement with gaming may seem like a small chapter in an extraordinary career, but it reveals something much larger. Michael Jackson constantly searched for new ways to express creativity. He never allowed himself to be limited by a single stage, a single audience, or a single form of entertainment. His imagination reached wherever new ideas could be found, and that willingness to explore unfamiliar territory became one of the defining characteristics of his career. Because to Michael, the future wasn't something to wait for, it was something to help create. Michael Jackson never believed music should exist on its own. From the very beginning, he imagined performances as complete experiences: music, storytelling, visual effects, costumes, dance. Every element had to work together. That philosophy naturally drew him toward Hollywood. Long before music videos were treated like short films, Michael was already thinking like a filmmaker. He wanted every project to transport audiences into another world. One of the clearest examples came in 1986, when Michael partnered with two of the biggest names in the film industry: George Lucas, the visionary behind Star Wars, and legendary director Francis Ford Coppola. Together, they created Captain EO, a groundbreaking 3D science fiction film produced exclusively for Disney theme parks. At the time, the project was unlike anything audiences had ever experienced. Instead of a traditional attraction, visitors stepped into an immersive adventure that combined music, special effects, and cinematic storytelling. Michael didn't simply perform songs. He became the central character in a futuristic mission that blended fantasy with live-action filmmaking. The production pushed the limits of available technology: advanced visual effects, complex choreography, innovative 3D photography, and a level of detail rarely seen in theme park entertainment. Although the film lasted only a short time, its influence reached much further. It proved that a musical performance could become a cinematic experience. For Michael, that was exactly the goal. He wanted audiences to feel as though they had entered another universe, not simply watched a concert. His fascination with filmmaking continued throughout his career. Music videos like Thriller, Smooth Criminal, Remember the Time, and Ghosts were created with the same ambition as Hollywood productions. They featured detailed storylines, professional actors, large production crews, and visual effects that often rivaled major motion pictures. Michael never accepted the idea that a music video should consist of simple performance footage. Every project became an opportunity to tell a story, to build suspense, to create characters, and to leave audiences talking long after the final scene ended. People who worked with Michael often described someone who constantly exchanged ideas with directors, cinematographers, costume designers, and visual effects artists. He wasn't interested in doing what had already been done. He wanted to create something audiences had never seen before. That creative ambition became one of the reasons Hollywood respected him so deeply. He wasn't merely a musician appearing in films. He approached filmmaking with genuine passion, always searching for new ways to combine music and cinema into a single experience. Looking back today, it's easy to see how influential those ideas became. Modern artists regularly release cinematic music videos, concerts feature elaborate storytelling, streaming platforms premiere visual albums. Many of those concepts became mainstream years after Michael had already explored them. Once again, he wasn't simply following entertainment trends, he was helping create them, and that ability to imagine tomorrow before everyone else was another reason so many people came to see Michael Jackson as more than an extraordinary performer. They saw a visionary. To millions of fans, Michael Jackson was known as an extraordinary performer, but away from the spotlight, there was another side of him that received far less attention: his deep connection with animals throughout his life. Michael surrounded himself with creatures of all kinds. He believed they offered something the world often struggled to provide: honesty, trust, and unconditional companionship. Among all the animals he cared for, one became especially famous: a chimpanzee named Bubbles. As Michael's popularity continued to grow during the 1980s, Bubbles was frequently seen traveling alongside him. The chimp appeared in photo shoots, accompanied Michael to public events, and quickly became one of the most recognizable animal companions in entertainment history to many people. It seemed unusual, but for Michael, Bubbles was simply a trusted friend, someone who brought comfort during an incredibly demanding period of his life. His love for animals wasn't limited to one companion. At Neverland Ranch, Michael created an environment where numerous species could be cared for. The property became home to exotic animals, horses, birds, and other wildlife. Visitors often recalled how passionate he was when introducing them to the animals that lived there. He believed children could develop a greater appreciation for nature by experiencing it up close. That same compassion eventually found its way into his music. One of the most powerful examples came with Earth Song, released in the mid-1990s. The song addressed issues far beyond entertainment. Its lyrics focused on environmental destruction, deforestation, animal suffering, and humanity's responsibility to protect the planet. The accompanying music video carried those messages even further, showing damaged landscapes, injured wildlife, and the consequences of human conflict. It became one of the most emotionally powerful works of Michael's career. At a time when environmental awareness received far less public attention than it does today, Michael was encouraging audiences to think differently. He wasn't interested in simply creating another hit record. He wanted listeners to reflect on the world around them, to consider the impact people have on nature, and the responsibility that comes with protecting it. That concern extended beyond music. Throughout his career, Michael supported numerous humanitarian and environmental causes. His belief was simple: success carried responsibility. If someone had the ability to inspire millions, they should also use that influence to encourage kindness and compassion, whether toward people or toward animals. Looking back, his affection for wildlife may seem like a small detail in an extraordinary life, but it revealed something important about the way he viewed the world. Michael didn't separate creativity from compassion. To him, the two belong together, and perhaps that's why so many of his songs continue connecting with audiences today. Because beneath the spectacular performances, the elaborate costumes, and the record-breaking success was someone who genuinely hoped to leave the world a little better than he found it. Talent rarely develops in complete isolation. Behind almost every legendary artist, there are people who inspire, guide, or influence the journey. For Michael Jackson, music surrounded him from the very beginning. Growing up in a family filled with performers, he learned about rhythm, harmony, and stage presence long before most children had discovered their own interests. Those early experiences shaped the artist the world would eventually come to know. But Michael's musical education didn't stop at home. As his career continued to grow, he found inspiration in some of the greatest musicians of his generation. One of the people he admired most was Stevie Wonder. Michael often spoke with enormous respect about Stevie's extraordinary ability to write songs, compose melodies, and create music that connected with people across the world. He didn't simply see him as another successful artist. He saw him as a creative genius, someone whose work demonstrated what was possible when talent met imagination. The admiration was mutual. Over the years, the two artists crossed paths on numerous occasions. Each recognized the remarkable gifts of the other. Although their musical styles were different, both believed that great songs should carry emotion, they should tell stories, and they should leave listeners feeling something long after the music ended. Michael paid close attention to artists who constantly pushed creative boundaries. He studied how they approached songwriting, how they performed, how they connected with audiences, rather than copying their work. He learned from it, then transformed those lessons into something entirely his own. That willingness to keep learning became one of Michael's greatest strengths. No matter how successful he became, he remained curious, always searching for new ideas, new sounds, and new ways to improve. People who worked alongside him often described someone who never stopped asking questions. He wanted to understand every part of the creative process, from writing lyrics to arranging music to producing recordings that sounded unlike anything listeners had heard before. That mindset separated him from many other performers. Michael wasn't satisfied with simply singing great songs. He wanted to understand how great songs were created. Looking back, it's easy to see why his music evolved so dramatically over the years. Each album introduced something different. Each performance explored new possibilities. Each project reflected an artist who refused to stand still. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden within Michael Jackson's journey. Natural talent can open doors, but lasting greatness comes from remaining a student, from respecting those who inspire you, while never losing the courage to discover your own voice. Michael mastered that balance, and in doing so, he created a body of work that continues inspiring musicians across every generation. By the early 1980s, music videos were still viewed as promotional tools. Most lasted only a few minutes. Artists stood in front of cameras and performed their songs, and the video ended. Very few people imagined they could become something greater. Michael Jackson saw things differently. He believed a music video should tell a story. It should create emotion, build suspense, and leave audiences talking long after the music stopped. That vision led to one of the most influential productions in entertainment history, Thriller. When the project began, it was unlike anything the music industry had attempted before. Instead of hiring a traditional music video director, Michael chose filmmaker John Landis, who was already well known for his work in Hollywood. Together, they approached Thriller as if they were making a short film. The production featured professional actors, detailed makeup, complex choreography, special effects, and a complete storyline. Every scene was carefully planned, every dance sequence was rehearsed repeatedly, every camera angle was chosen to strengthen the experience. When Thriller was finally released, it exceeded every expectation. Audiences had never seen anything like it. The nearly 14-minute production blurred the line between music and cinema. It wasn't simply a music video anymore, it had become an event. Television networks aired it repeatedly. Fans recorded it on VHS tapes. People gathered together just to watch it again and again. Its influence spread far beyond the music industry. Directors began treating music videos as cinematic productions. Record labels invested more heavily in visual storytelling. Artists realized that powerful imagery could become just as memorable as the songs themselves. Michael had completely changed the standard. Years later, Thriller received another extraordinary honor. It became the first music video ever selected for preservation in the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress. The recognition wasn't based on record sales or chart performance. It acknowledged the video's cultural, historical, and artistic significance. Very few music videos have ever received that distinction. It confirmed what millions of fans already believed. Thriller was more than entertainment. It had become part of history. Looking back today, its influence can still be seen everywhere. Modern artists routinely release cinematic music videos. Streaming platforms premiere visual albums. Short films accompany major album launches. Many of those ideas became common years after Michael had already introduced them to the world. Once again, he wasn't following entertainment trends. He was creating them. Because Michael Jackson never viewed music as something people should only hear. He believed it should also be seen, felt, and remembered. That philosophy transformed one unforgettable music video into a landmark achievement, not only for Michael Jackson, but for the entire entertainment industry. When people think about Michael Jackson, they usually think about music, his voice, his dancing, his record-breaking performances. But away from the spotlight, Michael was making business decisions that would permanently change the music industry. One decision in particular stunned almost everyone. In 1985, Michael Jackson purchased the ATV music publishing catalog for approximately $47.5 million. At first, many people struggled to understand why he would spend such an enormous amount of money on a music publishing company, but Michael wasn't simply buying songs, he was buying ownership. The catalog included publishing rights to thousands of compositions, among them more than 250 songs written by the Beatles, including timeless classics created by John Lennon and Paul McCartney. It was an extraordinary acquisition, especially considering Michael was still in the middle of one of the biggest recording careers in history. To many observers, the purchase seemed risky. $47 million was an enormous investment during the 1980s. Some questioned whether it would ever pay off. Michael believed otherwise. He understood something that many people overlooked. Hit songs don't stop generating value after they're released. Every time they're played on the radio, used in a movie, featured in a television show, or licensed for a commercial, they continue producing income. Owning the publishing rights meant owning a share of that long-term value. It was a business strategy that looked far beyond the present. Over time, the investment proved remarkably successful. The catalog grew in value year after year. It generated substantial revenue and became one of the most important assets connected to Michael's business empire. His decision also changed the way artists thought about ownership. Many musicians had focused almost entirely on recording and performing. Michael demonstrated that controlling publishing rights could be just as important as creating the music itself. Young artists, managers, and record executives began paying much closer attention to intellectual property. The conversation shifted. It was no longer just about making hit records, it was about owning them. Looking back, the purchase is now regarded as one of the most significant business moves ever made by an entertainer. It revealed another side of Michael Jackson that audiences rarely saw. Behind the performer was someone who carefully studied contracts, recognized long-term opportunities, and understood the value of creative ownership. He wasn't thinking only about the next album or the next tour, he was thinking decades into the future. Once again, Michael proved that his greatest strength wasn't simply talent, it was vision, the ability to see possibilities long before everyone else recognized them. And while his business success made headlines, there was another side of Michael's life that received far less attention. One measured not in dollars, but in compassion. Because some of his most remarkable contributions happened quietly, far away from cameras, and without asking for recognition. Throughout his career, Michael Jackson filled stadiums, broke records, and became one of the most recognizable people on earth. Those achievements made headlines around the world. But many of his most meaningful contributions happened far away from television cameras, away from sold-out concerts, away from the spotlight. Michael believed success carried responsibility. He often said that if someone had the ability to help others, they should. Not because it generated publicity, but because it was simply the right thing to do. That belief shaped much of his life. Over the years, Michael quietly supported dozens of charitable organizations. He donated millions of dollars to causes focused on children, education, medical research, and disaster relief. Many of those contributions received little public attention. Some became known only years later. One cause that remained especially close to his heart involved children receiving medical treatment. Whenever his schedule allowed, Michael visited hospitals and burn centers. He spent time talking with young patients, offering encouragement, sharing laughter, and trying to brighten days that were often filled with uncertainty. For those children, meeting Michael Jackson wasn't simply meeting a global superstar. It was meeting someone who genuinely cared. His compassion also reached millions through music. In 1985, Michael joined some of the biggest names in the industry to record We Are the World. The song was created to raise money for famine relief in Africa, rather than focusing on individual success. Artists came together for a common purpose. The recording became one of the most successful charity singles ever released, raising millions of dollars while reminding the world that music could inspire real change. Michael continued that mission in the years that followed, through the Heal the World Foundation. He supported programs dedicated to improving the lives of children around the globe. The foundation worked to provide assistance to vulnerable communities while encouraging people to think beyond themselves. For Michael, kindness wasn't something reserved for special occasions. He believed it should become part of everyday life. People who spent time with him often shared similar stories. They remembered quiet moments that never appeared in newspapers, unexpected phone calls, private donations, visits arranged without publicity, acts of generosity that happened simply because someone needed help. Those moments rarely made headlines, but they left lasting impressions on the people who experienced them. Looking back today, Michael Jackson's humanitarian work stands alongside his artistic achievements. His records changed music, his performances transformed entertainment, but his compassion touched lives in ways that can never be measured by awards or album sales. Perhaps that is why so many people continue speaking about him with such admiration, not only because of what he accomplished on stage, but because of what he chose to do when the cameras weren't watching. Because in the end, the greatest legacy isn't always found in fame. Sometimes it's found in the lives we quietly change along the way. As each chapter of Michael Jackson's life came together, a remarkable pattern began to emerge. He wasn't simply an extraordinary singer or an incredible dancer. He was constantly thinking beyond the present. Long before the rest of the entertainment industry caught up, Michael was already imagining what came next. He understood that music alone wasn't enough. Every performance needed unforgettable visuals. Every concert needed cinematic storytelling. Every costume had to strengthen the performance. Every business decision had to protect the future. That way of thinking made him different from many of his contemporaries. While others focused on making hit records, Michael focused on building a lasting legacy. His music videos became short films. His concerts felt like theatrical productions. His stage costumes evolved into instantly recognizable symbols. Even his business decisions reflected long-term vision rather than short-term success. The purchase of a music publishing catalog, his involvement with filmmaking, his interest in emerging technology, and his willingness to explore video games before most entertainers took them seriously, all pointed toward the same conclusion. Michael wasn't following change, he was anticipating it. That mindset also shaped the way he built his personal brand. Without saying a single word, people could identify him instantly. A black fedora, a military-style jacket, one sparkling glove, white socks with black loafers. Those weren't random fashion choices. They became visual trademarks recognized across the world. Today, branding experts often describe the importance of creating a memorable identity. Michael understood that principle decades earlier. He knew people remembered images just as strongly as melodies, perhaps even more. He also refused to separate different forms of creativity: music-inspired dance, dance-inspired costume design, costumes-enhanced storytelling. Storytelling transformed concerts into unforgettable experiences. Everything worked together. Nothing existed by itself. That creative philosophy has become increasingly common today. Modern artists build multimedia experiences around albums. Concert tours feature cinematic visuals. Interactive technology has become part of live performances. Many of those ideas became industry standards years after Michael had already embraced them. Looking back, it's easier to understand why so many people described him as a perfectionist. He wasn't chasing perfection for its own sake. He believed every small improvement helped create something audiences would remember forever, whether adjusting a costume, rehearsing a dance step, or refining a visual effect. He never stopped searching for a better idea. That relentless curiosity became one of his greatest strengths, because genius isn't simply about natural talent, it's about seeing possibilities that others overlook. And throughout his remarkable career, Michael Jackson did exactly that, again and again and again, which may explain why his influence continues growing long after his final performance, because true vision doesn't disappear with time. If anything, but time makes it even easier to recognize. When people hear the name Michael Jackson, the first things that usually come to mind are the music, the dancing, and the records he broke throughout his extraordinary career. Those achievements alone would have secured his place in history. But as the years have passed, a different picture has begun to emerge. People are starting to recognize that Michael Jackson's greatest gift wasn't limited to performing. It was the way he imagined the future. Throughout his life, he constantly looked beyond what already existed. He challenged traditional ideas about music videos. He transformed concerts into cinematic experiences. He turned stage costumes into cultural icons. He explored new technology. He made business decisions that changed how artists viewed ownership. And he believed entertainment should inspire people, not simply impress them. That combination of creativity and vision is incredibly rare. Many people possess talent. Very few possess the ability to reshape an entire industry. Michael Jackson did both, again and again. His influence can still be seen almost everywhere. Modern artists release visual albums, concerts rely on breathtaking storytelling and special effects. Fashion designers continue drawing inspiration from his signature style. Music videos are produced like Hollywood films. Performers think carefully about branding and visual identity. These ideas feel completely natural today, but decades ago, they were revolutionary. Michael saw possibilities that many others hadn't even considered. Perhaps that is why his work continues reaching new generations. Young people who were born years after his final performance are still discovering his music, watching his videos, studying his choreography, and finding inspiration in his creativity. Great artists entertain audiences. True visionaries continue inspiring them long after they're gone. Michael Jackson belongs in that second category. Of course, no remarkable life is without complexity. His story has been celebrated, debated, and examined from countless different perspectives. History remembers extraordinary people for many reasons, but regardless of where those conversations lead, few would disagree on one point. Michael Jackson permanently changed the world of entertainment. His influence crossed cultures, languages, and generations. He showed that music could become cinema, that fashion could become identity, that business could protect creativity, and that imagination has no limits. Perhaps that's the greatest lesson his life leaves behind. Genius isn't simply about being the best at one thing. It's about seeing connections others fail to notice. It's about asking questions nobody else is asking, and having the courage to pursue ideas that seem impossible. Michael Jackson spent his entire career doing exactly that, which may explain why, even years after his final performance, the world is still discovering new reasons to admire his remarkable mind. Because legends are remembered for what they achieve, but visionaries are remembered for what they make possible. And Michael Jackson did far more than create unforgettable music. He expanded the boundaries of entertainment itself. That is why his legacy continues to grow. And perhaps why the world is only beginning to understand the true genius behind the king of pop. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next story. Until next time, thank you for watching.